Now back to the Gonzo and SA Show, featuring Gonzalo Gonzalez, J.P. Williams, and Danny Gibbons. San Antonio Sports Leader, 1250 ESPN San Antonio.
Thank you, Big Voice Guy. And thank you to RowdyTalk.com for bringing us out to the block today, 14530. It's 14530 Roadrunner Way. We'll be out here till 11, but there is stuff going on all day out here. Of course, 1:30 kicks off for the Texas A&M Alabama, or say Alabama at Texas A&M game, which Robert, our intern here, his lovely girlfriend goes to Texas A&M and didn't get him a ticket.
Yeah, what's going on with that, Robert?
And I guess the demand was just a little too heavy, and he fell at the bottom of the totem pole. So she'll be having a good time at the Texas A&M game, while Robert will be following the Texas State Bobcats
she can send you
on his phone.
She can send you vines and photos of the game. Sorry, Robert.
So, no, that'll be a lot of fun. And, of course, tonight, this is the place to come watch the UTSA-Arizona game.
That's right.
And not everybody's going to have this game because it's not on all cable outlets, but it's here. They've got it here. There's going to be, a 200-inch screen?
That's what I'm hearing.
I mean, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be good stuff there. When we look at the Arizona Wildcats, they're led by Rich Rodriguez, of course.
Rich Rod.
He's put in his time at reputable places like Michigan. But Arizona's 2-0, and they're coming off a 58-13 win over UNLV. And they have an All-American running back, Kadeem Carey, who had 171 yards and 2 touchdowns.
By the way,
game.
what is with these running backs? We've had Casey Carrier and Kadeem Carey. You can't write this stuff. I mean, somebody's got to be making this stuff up, right? That was his debut game. I guess for some reason he missed the first game of the season. That was his debut game. That's their guy. And in 2 games, I mean, Arizona's got a strong rushing attack. In 2 games, they rank 4th nationally with 703 yards. They're averaging 7 yards per carry on the ground. Now, I'm excited that this kind of rushing attack is going to go against the UTSA front and UTSA rushing defense that we were just all over, 5 minutes ago. Yeah, and I think it's going to be a kind of a similar game maybe to the New Mexico game. They don't have a very strong passing attack, and there's been a little bit of quarterback controversy there with their quarterback.
You mean who's the guy that's going to hand off the ball to the running back?
Yeah, and they have an amazing running game, but I think that's going to play right into the strengths of UTSA.
Yeah, but they're not overlooking UTSA. We talked about what we had seen from them.
Coach speak, I don't think they necessarily are.
Well, when you think about it,
and the media is not. But I mean, as a player, you never know.
UTSA has already gone west and won on the road with New Mexico.
Yep.
Okay. UTSA, according to them, hung up 35 points on 13th ranked, 16th ranked.
They've got a tough schedule coming up. Teams like UCLA and USC and Arizona State and Oregon, and it's not obviously a must-win, but it's a game that Arizona should win.
But isn't that the advantage of UTSA
Absolutely.
going against these people? Like,
Absolutely.
you know what? Sleep on us.
Yeah.
I mean, you're predicting. What's the line on this? Like 25 or 26? It's
probably too much.
Yeah, it's a huge line on it, and UTSA is like, no big deal. We'll just go in there and play our style of game, and if you want to put your second team in, we're going to hang 4 touchdowns on them until you put your first team back in there. I mean, so it's swagger. I like it.
Upsets happen in college football all the time. There's no reason to think that this can't be one of them.
Arizona has forced 3 turnovers per game, and they've only turned the ball over once.
That's one thing I wanted to kind of talk about. I think UTSA had a lot of success last year winning the turnover margin.
Right.
And through the first 2 games this year, they haven't done that. And I think they only have 1 takeaway, if I'm not mistaken. So that's definitely something they need to remedy here moving forward, especially with some of the teams they're going to start taking on. Getting into some of these games that are, conference games that are definitely winnable games. And you got to start winning the turnover battle. Both the offensive and defensive line of Arizona, people are saying, are bigger than OSU. I don't know if they're necessarily faster, but they're huge guys. This may be one of the biggest teams that UTSA has ever gone up against.
Yeah, and is this the kind of, what do we expect game plan from the Wildcats? What kind of ratio from ground to pass are we expecting from them?
From everything that I've heard, it's just going to be run. They have a lot of issues throwing the ball. I know their quarterback B.J. Denker has had some serious trouble. He's great on the ground, but he's had some serious trouble throwing the ball. His senior quarterback, and like we were talking about earlier, I think that's going to play into the strengths of UTSA. But when
you think about a running team, you also think about clock control because usually, unless they break out on big plays, a running team will burn clock and win the possession game. And if you've got the UTSA offense coming out there, and then it's 3 and out, and then Arizona State. I keep calling them Arizona State. And then Arizona keeps.
It's difficult with college football, right?
I guess Arizona Tech.
I know. Whatever.
But so you think about it, if UTSA goes 3 and out, it could be 8 or 9 minutes until they see the ball again. So that's some of the risk you run playing a team like that. So
that's right.
It'll be interesting. We are joined on the line, the voice of the Arizona Wildcats, Brian Jeffries. Good morning, Brian. How are you, sir?
Good morning, gentlemen. Very good. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Now, Brian, how are the Arizona Wildcats looking at this matchup against a third-year college football program like UTSA?
Well, I think it's kind of tough to tell. You talk to the players, and they'll tell you exactly what they're supposed to say as they respect their opponent. They're looking forward to the game. I think from a realistic point of view, Arizona looks at this as, another game to try and improve some things early in the season because this is the last non-conference game before they start Pac-12 play. And certainly, like any team, you want to have your house in order before conference play starts. So from that perspective, everyone seems to be focused. It's not like, even though the scores may have indicated it, I don't think the Wildcats have just rolled over to opponents. They know that they've got a lot of work to do to get better. And so maybe that's the best way that they're viewing it, is that they want to go out and win tonight. They want to be playing at their best. They've got a week off next Saturday before conference play starts. So it'd be nice to be 3-0.
Now, you talk about conference play. What were some of the expectations put on this Arizona Wildcat team before the season started?
Well, I don't think there were high expectations by any means. The media picked them to finish fourth in the Pac-12 South. They lost their outstanding senior quarterback, Matt Scott, who really had a phenomenal year last year and led the offense to record-setting numbers. The defense last year was one of the worst in the country. That's the only way I can put it. That's what the statistics will tell you. And they had everybody back on the defensive side, so you expect them to be better. But once again, you look at those numbers from last year and you say, okay, how much can they improve? So I think it was a mixed bag. Now, of course, you had the nation's leading rusher coming back in Kadeem Carey, so you knew had that weapon. But there were still way too many question marks, and I still think there are. I mean, They have not had a great passing attack through their first 2 games of the season, and the defense really hasn't been tested like I think it will tonight.
We're joined by Brian Jeffries, play-by-play voice of the Arizona Wildcats. Brian, you mentioned Kadeem Carey. I know he's obviously going to be a focus of the UTSA defense. Who are some of the other players that we need to keep an eye out for?
Well, on the offensive side, they want to get the passing attack going because Kadeem can run the ball. That's pretty obvious. He had last weekend in his first game, 171 yards on 16 carries. So the rest of the offense really revolves around B.J. Dinker. He's a senior quarterback, a JC transfer in his second year and his first year as a starter. But he has not had a great start to the season by any means. He's hitting 50% of his passes. Part of the reason is that they just have a bunch of young receivers. They got hit hard in the receiving core due to some injuries. Austin Hill, their leading receiver, tore an ACL in spring ball. He's probably out for the year. David Richards, a 6'4" kid who was one of their top receivers from last year, has a foot injury. He is still out. The only guy that really came back that you could look at and say was a veteran was Terrence Miller, and he's caught 1 pass in 2 games. So the rest of the receivers are a mix of true freshmen, redshirt freshmen, and sophomores. And I think that's one reason the passing attack really hasn't taken off as yet. But if you're just talking about some names, Terrence Miller, 6'4" senior tight end / slot receiver would be a guy to look at. And Garrick Wharton, who's one of their older guys, a junior receiver, probably the fastest guy on the team. They really, they'd like to get the passing game going tonight. I'm not going to say that that's going to be easy, but that's certainly one of the emphasis on the offensive side.
Now, we are joined by Brian Jeffries, play-by-play voice of the Arizona Wildcats. Brian, the Wildcats 2-0. They've obviously been taking care of business on the ground. What kind of pass-to-run ratio can we expect from that Arizona offense tonight?
Well, I think the game will dictate a lot of that, and I don't think that Rich Rodriguez is going to try and force the passing game, even though everyone realizes it needs to improve. They're not going to go out there and just throw the ball in order to see if they can throw it better. He thinks that they're very close to that. He's not going to measure it necessarily by the number of yards that they get tonight, But I think that they've got to find a way to move the ball through the air, because otherwise either UTSA tonight or teams in the future are just going to stack the line of scrimmage and see if they can shut down the run and dare the Wildcats to throw the ball. So that's one area that they definitely got to work on, as I said. But as far as the ratio goes, I mean, Rich Rod's like a lot of coaches. He'd like it to be 50-50. Last year, they had, a great attack on both sides. They had Kadeem Carey running the ball. They had Matt Scott passing the ball, some outstanding receivers, and that's why they had such a great offense last year. They averaged 38 points a game last season, which for this program was exceptional. So they need to get back to that again. They need to find that balance, and a lot of that, again, will depend on the passing game.
Now, Brian, you mentioned that Arizona's had a lot of trouble defensively, especially last year. UTSA is coming into this game. UTSA is averaging close to 450 yards of total offense through their first two games. What do you think the Wildcats need to do defensively to slow down this offensive attack by the Roadrunners?
Well, one thing, Rich Rod uses a term called eye discipline on defense. And against a team like UTSA, a team that runs multiple different offensive sets, that can run the option, etc., he really has emphasized that eye discipline. The players need to, hold their spots on the field. They can't get duped by anything that UTSA is doing offensively. They've got to try and know where the ball is at all times, and I think that's going to be certainly the emphasis for the defense tonight. Arizona's got some young guys playing defense. They've got a little more depth than they had a year ago, and I think that's one reason they've played better so far this year. But they know that this is their biggest challenge so far this season. They played Northern Arizona in their opener, and that's an FCS school, and not a bad one, but, there was a 35-0 Arizona win. And last week at UNLV, the Wildcats won easily there, 56-13. And UNLV just didn't show a whole lot on defense. In fact, the Wildcats had 2 pick sixes in that ball game. So I really think Arizona's defense will be tested to its supreme tonight, and I'm really interested to see. Like I said, this is a group that is a veteran group in terms of starters returning. They've got some young guys backing them up that have played well so far. Their leading tackler is a true freshman by the name of Scooby Wright, a linebacker. But they haven't faced an offensive attack anything like the Roadrunners tonight. And so we'll know a lot more about the defense tonight. And, if Arizona's defense plays well tonight, then, that bodes well for the Pac-12 season.
You can't go wrong with a linebacker named Scooby, I'll tell you what. He's Brian Jeffries, play-by-play voice of the Arizona Wildcats. Brian, thanks for coming on, and good luck to you and the Wildcats this season.
All right. Sure thing. Thanks, guys.
So he brings up Brian brings up some things, eye discipline, and it took everything I had to hold back for an Apple joke there, but I thought whatever. Okay, let's take a break. It's the Gonzo and SA Show, 1250 ESPN San Antonio. 2 pumps to our guest Brian Jeffries, the play-by-play voice of the Arizona Wildcats. We're out here at the Block, 14530 Roadrunner Way, getting ready for their watch party tonight, the Arizona UTSA watch party. I think kickoff's at 9:30, but get here early. Enjoy the food trucks. Enjoy the drinks. Enjoy the atmosphere. This is a great place. We're out here courtesy of RowdyTalk.com. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.